Greetings, Minecrafters! I am Nate T. Bird, and welcome back to Let's Make a Map, Episode 4. To start today's episode off, I'm going to be explaining a little bit about what I'm going to be doing for the remainder of these episodes. So in between episodes, I am going to be working on programming the different bosses' mechanics. I've already shown you a little bit about what it's like to create the boss mechanics, and it would just take way too long if I did all of that on camera. So that's what I've done already. In between episodes, I've programmed, at least started to program, a few of the different boss mechanics. Now, for sakes of spoilers, I'm not going to be showing you what these bosses do, but I will explain what the boss is and maybe a little bit about what you might expect. So the first boss that I started programming is a zombie pigman berserker. So he is a melee class, or a melee fighter, melee boss, that has an axe and is very combat focused. So he'll run at you, he'll charge at you, he'll get enraged, he'll throw his axe, he will stun you, do all sorts of crazy things, but he's very focused on just physically attacking you, the player. The next boss that I started working on is the Creeper. This boss does not actually physically attack the player. Instead, he places a whole bunch of bombs and explosives to try and blow up the player. And the other boss that I started working on is the Iron Golem boss. So I thought it would be cool to give him sort of like support villagers. So he summons these villagers and they give him different buffs or give the player different debuffs. And so you'll have to kill those villagers in order to defeat the Golem boss. Now these are just the first three that I've started working on. If you have any ideas for things I could do for special attacks for them, then let me know. And if you have any ideas for different bosses that I could do, then let me know as well. I do still have a lot of the different bosses, at least ideas for the bosses done, as well as some of their special attacks. So I'm going to read these real quick, and if you have any ideas for different special attacks that I can do for the different bosses, then let me know down in the comments below. So this boss would be a skeleton boss. It would have a bow, and it would be mainly focused on shooting the player or damaging the player through projectiles. Then we have a zombie sentinel boss. This is more of a tank-based boss, so it has it's harder to kill. It's more of a slow-moving destroyer type. So if you have any ideas, let me know. The cow, you've already seen that, focuses on charging and moving very quickly. The spider would be focused on stunning and controlling the player and maybe damaging over time. The endermite, I just added this one because I think it would be funny to fight a really small creature and have that be the boss. And he would probably have some teleport skills to where he kind of tricks the player into taking damage. Also a killer rabbit. This one would be kind of crazy, jump around, perhaps stun and launch things at the player. A blaze, I can do all sorts of things with fire and different area of effect attacks. So this would probably be a damage over time and AoE boss. The witch would be a magic-based boss. Probably have a wide variety of different skills, all of which would damage the player or debuff the player in some way. And then, yeah, we'll just ignore that one. It's not a good idea for me. So yeah, those are the different bosses that I was thinking about adding. If you have any bosses that you think I should add that weren't in that list, then let me know. And once again, if you have any ideas for the special attacks, then let me know that as well. So for the rest of this episode, I'm going to be working on the classes. The reason being is that I need to be able to test and to balance the classes against the bosses. So while I'm making the bosses, I need to also be able to make the classes and to know how the class and the boss are going to interact. So I was testing this creeper boss, and he was very powerful and dangerous. I had full diamond armor on, and I was dying really quickly. So either I need to debuff or nerf the creeper boss, or I need to buff the class. I feel like having full diamond armor on is a little bit too much armor, so I need to figure out a good balance between armor, health, damage, and all of these different aspects to make the game fun and balanced. And if you're wondering what balance is, it's basically making it so that the game is not too easy and not too difficult. So that's why I'm going to be working on the classes right now. I would generally say that you should do your core mechanics first and then start working on some of your other core mechanics. But since the classes are also very close to the core mechanics, then I need to start working on them right now as well. One more thing. I added a system, or I've been working on a system to track or to give the bosses a little bit more of a smart AI. So to do that, I'm tracking which direction the player is in relative to the boss. So let's say this is the boss, or the boss is right here, and then I am the player. So if you look right here, I am towards the negative Z from the boss. So the boss then knows that if he wants to attack me, or like let's take the cow boss for example. Now the cow boss can know, hey, he's in the negative Z direction. I should probably charge towards that direction. And so I'm going to be doing it for all 4 different X, Y, and Z directions, and also all of the different angles in between the directions. So essentially we're going to have 8 different directions. 1, 2, 3, and so on all the way around. And I think that will give us a wide enough variety of directions to make it so that the boss is more accurate, but also it'll make it simpler enough for me to program the boss fights to the point that actually the bosses are not too complicated and not too resource intensive. So that's the basic idea, and what I've done to do that is a little bit unorthodox, I would say. So instead of tracking the actual direction that the player is in comparison to the boss, I'm tracking which direction the player is looking in comparison to the boss. So right now I'm looking from between negative 30 and positive 30. So that is me basically looking in that direction. And over here I'm looking in about towards 90. So that's what I do because I'm guessing that the player is going to be facing the boss whenever they're there. Because if that's the boss and I'm the player, I'm going to be facing that direction. I'm not usually going to be facing this direction when the boss is right here. I'm going to be facing the boss no matter which position I'm in. So that's the basic idea behind it. And to do that, I just use a few nested execute commands. I'm executing from the boss, then I'm executing from the nearest player, who is within a range of 7, and who has a rotation of between 30 and negative 30. And then I set the boss's direction score to be a number based on that player's direction. And that's what I'm going to be using. So in the commands that I use the direction score, and then I give motion or launch a projectile relative to that direction. Now this system is not very accurate because what if the player isn't looking at the boss? I know that that's highly likely. So if I do ever decide to change or to improve this system, I can easily do it just so long as I keep the direction score according to the direction. So that all of these systems over here that use the direction score, they won't have to change because this is the only system that's going to change and the score will remain the same. That's kind of just some technical stuff. It's not really important for you to know, but as a map maker, I'm very happy that I'm assured that, hey, even if this system improves right here, I won't have to go in and change all of the different boss fight mechanics to fit the new system. These are the classes that I want to be doing. I want to have the knight, the fighter, the archer, the mage, and the assassin. Now, those might change based on further exploration, or perhaps I might add a few or remove a few. But I feel like these 5 classes give me enough room to make each one of them very unique, but also to make them all fun and exciting. So the knight would be more of a defense-based class. The fighter would be a strength-based, so maybe have a higher health, but also deal higher damage. Archer is ranged. Mage would be more of a support-based class or an area of effect class. And the assassin would be heavily focused on damage. So how do I know which class the player has chosen? Well, I don't, so that's what we're going to set up right now. To do that, I'm going to be using a score. So we're going to do scoreboard, objectives, add, and then we're going to add a score called class. And it's going to be a dummy objective, and I don't care what its display name is, so we'll just do that. So now I have this score class, and so if the player's score of class is 0, it means that they don't have a class selected. But then if they choose knight, then we're going to set their class to 1. If they choose fighter, it'll be 2, 3, 4, and so on. So that's the method that I'm going to be using to track which class the player chooses, so that I can, in the command blocks later on, I can actually use that as one of the target selectors, or one of the arguments in the target selectors, to track which players need to get a certain amount of health boost or the certain amount of equipment or items. So let's figure out how we're going to equip the player. What I want them to do is I want them to walk up to this sign, right-click on it. It says you have chosen knight, and then it will teleport them into this room where they can select their boss and then start the fight. Now, I don't want to give them their equipment, at least not all of their equipment, in this room, because if I give them, let's say, splash potions, then potentially they could use the splash potions in this room. I feel like giving their equipment, their armor, and their weapon would be okay, but any consumables I need to give after they enter the actual arena. So I think what we'll do is we will have another scoreboard, which is called the equip scoreboard. So let's really quickly, let's add that. Just use the up arrow to do the last command, and then just change it to equip. So that's what I'm going to be doing to track when the player needs to be equipped. So what I'll do is I'll have them right-click on the sign. It'll set their class score to be the appropriate one, and then it will also set their equip score to be 1, and then it'll also activate the wireless redstone in the spawn chunks to actually give all of the players who have an equip score of 1 their items. And then at the end of that set of command blocks, we'll also set their equip score back to 0 so that they don't continuously get their items. They only get their items once. So here we are in the spawn chunks, and this is the region that will be filled with redstone blocks when a player chooses a class. Now, this is right here just resets all of this wool, or it would be redstone blocks, but it just sets it back to wool. And then these ones right here run the replace item command. So this will allow me to equip armor directly onto the player. Automatically, it just instantly equips the armor. So that's why I'm going to be using the entity data command. It gives sorry. So what it does is it replaces the items for entities, and it targets all players who have a score of equip that is 1, and then a score of class that is at least 1 and at most 1, meaning exactly 1. And it replaces their armor slot, their head armor slot, with nothing right now because we haven't done that yet. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to hop on to an online generator, and we're going to start to program some of the different armors for the different classes. And then we're going to copy those commands, those data values, NBT tags, over into this program to actually give the player the item. All right, here we are in my favorite command generator. It's called MCStacker, and there's a link to it in the description, so if you want to use it, go ahead and check there for the link. But it is an extremely useful command generator. It doesn't look that pretty, but it has most of the options, which is what I like. So right here we're going to specify that we want to do a replace item command and target a specific player. That doesn't really matter because we're just going to be copying the actual item ID, the item data. So we want to do, let's start with the paladin or the knight class. So we'll give him some diamond armor because I feel like he should be stronger. Or maybe iron. Let's give him an iron helmet. And you see it has autocomplete, which is really nice. I don't know. Yeah, we're going to give it a custom name. We'll call it the Knight's Helmet. I know it's extremely original, but bear with me. And we want to give it unbreakable, so that will make it so that it cannot be broken at all. And attribute modifiers. I haven't decided if I'm going to be doing the health through attributes or through the effect command. I think we'll do it through attributes. So right here we can specify the amount of max health that it gives. I think it should give 20. That's a full row of extra hearts, and it's plus the amount, follow range, knockback resistance. I think we're going to give that to him on his shield or his boots. Movement speed and attack damage. So it's this simple. You just fill out all of the things. It's like filling out an order. You're just I want some of this, some of that, and it's very fast and very efficient. So now what I can do is I can just highlight all of the stuff that I want, which is all of this, because we already have all of this other stuff written already, and then we can just copy and paste it into Minecraft. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to copy and paste it into a text file because it's what I do. Because this way now I have the command and I can see it all and I can easily change it and edit it as much as I want. And so this is what I'm going to be doing for all of the rest of the commands. It's fairly simple, fairly easy. If you want to do something else, let's give him an iron sword. Let's actually give him a diamond sword. And we'll call it the Knight's Edge. And then we will give it an unbreakable as well, and attribute modifiers, no max health, but attack damage. So we're going to be giving him 15 attack damage. And then we just copy and paste this. It's really, really quite simple. One thing that I forgot to mention that is a really helpful thing is to pay attention to the UUIDs. So what this is the UUID is a unique identifier for this attribute. So let's say that I have a UUID that is 11111, or 6 ones with the least, and then 4 ones with the most. So let's say that it gives 10 max health. And then I have another item that has the same UUIDs, and it gives also 10 max health. So you would think that because you have two different items equipped, that it will give you 20 max health. This is not the case. Because the UUIDs are the same, it will only give 10 max health even though you have two items that give 10 max health equipped. So what I like to do is I like to create a UUID that is basically universal for my map. So because this is the Paladin class, then I'm going to make all of them 1s. But if it were the Ranger class, then I would make all of them 2s. And that's the same thing for all of these. Also, the last digit, I like to make that be the item, the equipment slot number, basically. So let's say this is the helmet. So maybe the helmet would be 1, and then the boots would be 2, or not the boots, the chest plate. The leggings would be 3. So I changed the last number based on what slot it is, and then I change all of the rest of the numbers to be what class it is. So that is the basic idea behind it. It's just because I want to avoid having the same UUIDs, and this site doesn't randomize it every time. It only randomizes it the first time. At least I think it randomizes it. So that's one thing that you should keep in mind if you're making custom items like this. And sadly, that's all we have time for today. But in the next episode, we will for sure get started on actually balancing and testing these classes, as well as testing out the boss fights. So I hope you are looking forward to that. I know that I am. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, have a fantastic day.